Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Gun Rights Policy Conference 2022. I am Craig DeLuz, representing the Firearms Policy Coalition, and we are having a good time talking with the activists, the advocates, the lobbyists, the journalists, all the folks, the academics, all the folks who are involved in the fight for our Second Amendment rights. And with us now, we have a gentleman who has well, how do I want to put it? It is actually a very both informative and unique audio product that I think all of us should listen to. I wish we could get more anti-gunners to listen to it. But, without telling you what it is, I'm sure you'll guess as soon as they give you the name. But he's going to talk with us a little bit about it and why you got started. And we have the host of SelfDefense Gun Stories, Mr. Rob Morse. Rob, how are we doing today?
Like you, I'm amazed at the people I meet here. This is a candy store for people who are intellectually curious about self-defense and the legal environment in which we're living today.
Well, it's funny you say that because it's like last night I'm sitting there and we're like in the thing and we're smoking cigars and talking and I'm feeling like I'm like in the Hall of Fame of Second Amendment rights. The only difference is that these aren't bust. These are real people.
Right.
I'm hanging out and I'm talking with, and I'm like, it's almost like you just want to sit at the foot of the masters.
What's fascinating about this group is you're a master of your particular craft. You bring what you bring, and you realize there are so many facets of this discussion, this argument, this culture. And you go, here's a guy who knows the history, here's the laws, keep going on.
Exactly. It's watching these guys talk about policy, right, left, and drawing lines between, okay, well, this is like this, and this is like this, and to be able to, in their own heads, deal with cross-references and stuff like that.
Right. Just listen, you'll learn.
Exactly. So what I like about, so you're first of all, tell folks a little bit about your program, Self-Defense Gun Stories.
You've been to tons of training classes, and invariably someone goes, did you see what this lady did in, Texas, since we're here? And you go, yeah, that was good. She defended her family. But was she good or was she lucky? Mm-hmm. Because sometimes, and the old joke is it's better to be lucky than good. Well, the better you are, the luckier you get. And it would be great, which the news will never bring us, what was best practice?
Right.
Okay. For one, the news would never cover when Grandma defended herself, she was engaged in best practice. So let's describe what that would look like. And also let's document that Grandma does defend herself thousands of times a day. And I mean that literally, thousands of times a day. That's Self-Defense Gun Stories.
Well, and because the media would have you believe that their big thing is the good guy with the gun. That's a myth. That doesn't happen. But we know because we pay attention that it happens every day, and it actually happens multiple times every day.
About 4,500 times a day. Now, not all of that. It seldom involves a loud bang.
Right.
Because usually the criminal busts in and goes, ooh, that's not the robbery I had planned. Mm-hmm. See you, Grandma. Which is the best possible outcome. You've solved the problem.
For everybody.
And you don't need to clean the carpet.
Right. There you go. So now, what got you interested in doing this, in doing these sorts of analyses?
Well, I'd lived in California for a while, which was May issue, and I couldn't get a gun. My family was threatened, and I went, ooh, it's like, you want to know how far it is between the steps? Find a rung that's not there, and when your foot misses, you'll forever remember that distance. So I knew what it felt like to not be able to defend myself, and I started tracking those stories. I'd written about California gun laws. I came to GRPC a couple times and started working with Paul Lathrop, as he was doing, at that point called Politics and Guns, later became the Polite Society podcast. And so I'd podcasted for a year, and then I'm at this, as I mentioned, a training event, and I went, we should do a podcast on that. And since I was already doing one, I started one of my own.
Excellent. Now, do you do these by yourself?
I have between 6 and 8 co-hosts, firearms instructors, and they're different enough they bring their own perspective, so that the answers we get let's face it, the events that we read about in general are similar. They start to be repetitious, but the perspective of the different instructors keeps it fresh.
So if you were to notice a common thread that people tend to do right in these things, or things that happen when it turns out well that people are doing, is there any examples of some things that are common threads that people are doing right in these situations?
In general, the great cases are the door was locked. He had to break it down to get to me. I got between the bad guy and my family, and he either ran away or, oops, now I'm out of options. I defend myself and my family. When the bad guy runs, wounded or not, the good guys don't chase him. They're not out, oh yeah, and don't. No, they are wonderfully reluctant to shoot, which when you think about it, you and I are, if he's headed the other way, he's not a problem anymore.
Right.
And you go, you know what? That's not the Hollywood myth of the gun owner,
Right.
but that is the reality.
Right.
Yeah. Once our family's safe, we're all, are you kids okay? Did you see that?
Right.
Who do we call? Oh yeah. And then you solve it. So
All right. When things go wrong, what are some common things that you notice that have occurred when things go wrong?
the unattractive ones, even if not a lot bad happens, is I started way behind because there was a guy coming through my bedroom door when I finally realized I had a problem. Because you go, oh, you're behind. And often you're armed, and the guy goes, oops. Sometimes there's a physical fight. Sometimes it's just, I grabbed my gun, and it was close quarters, and I had to shoot this guy because I ran out of options. That was the gun was the only option available. No other choice. Other things, the emotional cost of armed defense. It wouldn't matter if it were a fist fight or armed defense. I was just in a violent confrontation. It was a surprise, and I want to talk to somebody. Mm-hmm. It's amazing the things when you talk to the police, they are taking a report. They have to, it's their job. And you tell the things that feel most important to you, and they're writing it down as if that's the order in which the event occurred. And now they go, well, and then there's invariably later that conflict of, but you told the officer.
Right.
And if you haven't thought about it, closing your mouth and saying, I'm going to give you a complete report after I've spoken to my lawyer.
Well, that was exactly where I was going to go, because ultimately a good defense attorney is going to tell you, because what happens is the adrenaline is flowing. You are not in a state of mind, and you don't necessarily, there are things that you remember that you can't put your thing on right then. There are things that you don't remember, right? I mean, it's just what a good defense attorney does, one who's experienced, is help you to be able to put together what exactly happened and communicate it, and not extraneous stuff that you don't want, or, by the way, don't need as a part of what you share with the officers.
Well, and what's fascinating is there are a number of factors that have to be present for you to legally use a lethal tool in armed defense. Great if you write down the history, but don't phrase those terms in the way that state statute requires. You might lose all your rights.
Right.
And since you and I don't do it for a living, we don't use the proper phraseology for that jurisdiction, and that's the lawyer's job. My goodness, it's cheaper to pay them than to have to sort it out later.
It is just, the first reaction should be, I want to work with you, and I want to talk with you, but I need to speak with my lawyer.
I'll answer all of your questions. I first need to get good counsel, which, if the cop is honest, he goes, wow, that sounds like exactly the thing my union rep said to me. Right. They're similar.
Anything that anything that ever that kind of would surprises you as you've gone through, and you're like, you see some of these things. No, even better question. What's probably some of the things what is the most luckiest thing you've ever seen in one of these stories? When you talk about being lucky.
Oh, grandma ends up with 3 guys in her bedroom, you know, and she puts the gun up and happens to get one of them, and then everybody runs. Great. There was another one, and it was fairly recent, which is probably why it comes to mind. A lady who was a recent immigrant, had recently got a gun, and she didn't speak English very well. So she defends herself. A guy breaks into her home, fights with her husband. She gets the gun, stops the guy. He stops hurting her husband. She stops shooting. So that culture of, I don't want to do any more violence once violence isn't being done to me, might be universal.
Right.
Recent immigrant. And then she goes, I'm not even sure how to call the police. She calls her neighbor who has a better command of one of English, 2 of our customs, and goes, hi, this just happened, what do we do? Rather than try and hide the fact. Okay,
Right.
Climb, confess, comply, go get help once this happens. But again, you need a lawyer, because if you don't understand what the policeman is asking you, so think of this,
Right.
you and I have traveled enough. We've been in foreign countries, and we go, we feel so proud of ourselves when we can order dinner and get a beer.
Yeah.
And you go, it might be real smart to know how to ask for the police. How do I ask the police to come help me? That should be on, if not the first language in foreign language, maybe the second or third lesson.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. There you go. How can folks partake of your program?
There are long podcasts. I try and make one about the length of a commute. So I'm in for 20 minutes. Sometimes I run long, go to 22. Go to SelfDefenseGunStories.com. We have the text, the original articles. You can listen to the podcast there. But these days, podcasts are delivered right to your pocket. Why don't you load yourself up with knowledge? Carry us in your pocket alongside your firearm. SelfDefenseGunStories.com. We come out once a week.
Excellent. So thank you so much for all that you do in the 2A community. By the way, you also write. So why don't you tell folks where they can
Right.
they can read you?
I've got about 2,000 articles at slowfacts.wordpress.com. It's taken a decade to do it, and now I'm almost an overnight sensation. A lot of those articles are picked up and carried at AmmoLand Shooting Sports News.
Nice. Excellent. Sir, thank you so very much for coming on the program.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, sir. All right, folks. That's it for this interview. Still going to run around, see if I can find somebody who might be interested in sitting down, chopping it up, and is interested in being introduced to you. So you folks enjoy your evening, and we'll be back hopefully with some more interviews. Take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.